Thrasher and Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Wake up, America! It's time for the adventures of Pipeman on W4CY.com, West Palm Beach's #1 internet radio station. Here's your host, the Pipeman.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures Pipeman W4CY Radio, and I'm very excited. Our next guest is a legend from a legendary, one of my favorite ever bands. So let's welcome to the show, Chuck Billy of Testament. How are you?
Good. I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing amazing. My preparation for this interview was to reminisce about the times I would hitchhike or take a Greyhound from LA up to the Bay Area to go to your shows.
I love it. Greyhound.
As soon as everybody left LA, like when Slayer and Metallica left LA, I mean, they left us with the stuff we didn't want to see. So we had to make it up to the Bay Area.
Well, the Bay Area came to LA once the metal storms begun in 82, 83, you know?
Yeah, exactly. 100%. And then you're going on tour and you're touring with Possessed, which
KREATOR.
With KREATOR
and Possessed. Yeah.
And Possessed. And I was bringing up Possessed because I used to go up to the Bay Area to see them too, but I was at that first ever crossover show at the Sun Valley Sportsman's Lodge, which was like an Elks Lodge or some shit like that. No security, nothing. And it was like Possessed, Dark Angel, Savage Grace on the metal side, and then Suicidal, COC, and I think the Descendants on the punk side.
Wow. What a show.
Oh, I'm telling you. It was, if you could imagine, it probably was the only LA show that could match the intensity of the Pit and everything else going on of the Bay Area, because there was no security, and it was first time ever punks and metalheads could go to a show without getting into fights, and it was brutal. It was,
and probably nobody got hurt.
Nobody got hurt. Nobody got hurt. I love how you bring that up, because people have this misconception of going to a metal show or even going in the Pit. It's funny, my co-host on my show, who is more of what I call a not metalhead, like she's into the metal that to me wasn't really necessarily metal. Doesn't make it bad, but it wasn't my definition of metal. And I brought her to this club one time. We were covering a show, and the Pit opened up, and she about lost it. And I'm like, just chill out. Just stand right here. You'll be fine. It's not what you think. And then that's how you turn people into lovers of metal. They have to experience it.
Right. Probably witnessed, wow, people are getting knocked down, but wow, they're picking them back up. Everybody's helping each other out,
One big family. And I think I also think that it's one of the greatest therapies, because I've talked to this about people before. Like, me going into the Pit was me avoiding punching somebody in the outside world.
Right.
You get all your aggressions out in the Pit, and then you feel good, and you don't get into trouble outside the Pit.
Yeah, and I'm sure it was all like something new to everybody too, really, back then. Yeah, because of course, punk rock was probably a lot more stage diving and more dancing instead of like thrashing each other a little bit,
Exactly, 100%. So I'm super stoked that you remastered these two amazing albums, okay? And what I was reading is that you had the ability nowadays because of technology to make it sound the way you really would have wanted it to sound back then, that you didn't really have the tools to do it. So you were able to take out effects and stuff like that and make it the real Testament sound.
Well, to a degree, because we couldn't find the original 2-inch master tapes, because we really wanted to remix and really make it modern sounding, you know, because now we have drum samples and all that stuff. It would have sounded much bigger. But those tapes are gone. Nobody knows where they're at. Atlantic doesn't have them on the shelf. So I have, because Johnny Z gave me years ago, the 1/2-inch unmastered tapes of those. So they're already mixes, but they're unmastered. So at least we're like, wow, at least we can go in and remaster these. And especially with, you know, technology today, it's going to sound way better than back then, because, you know, back then we really didn't know better, because that was our first experience making records. We were just excited to have a record in our hand going, we got a record, we got a record. Didn't matter what it sounded like. It was great to us, you know.
And to us, the listeners, it was the same thing. It's like, cool. You didn't even really care if it sounded good.
Yeah. And, you know, and today's stereos are much better and bigger sounding. And when we went into Nashville to remaster it, it was like, wow, we'd like A/B the old one to the new one. We're like, holy smokes, man. Wow, it's so much louder, so thicker. But also on the process of doing that, those effects and things we put, like, for example, First Strike Still Deadly had a little a flanging flare snare roll at the beginning. But with the new technology, opening up the EQ and making it bigger, it kind of sucked it all that out of it. So it's really more drier and in your face. A lot of those effects kind of dried up, but for the better, because we're like, wow, it just sounds so strong now.
Yeah, totally. And this tour is badass, 100%. Like, I mean, it's probably, in my opinion, as an old school thrash metalhead, probably one of the best tours this year for sure.
It's going to be. You know, we went to South America with KREATOR last year, and we had, let's get together and go to the U.S. And then after the U.S., towards the end of the year, we're going back with KREATOR and Anthrax in Europe. So we're going to be spending some time with KREATOR. To pick the opening act for our tour, though, we're like tossing around a lot of bands, and, you know, some European bands that, you know, came from our era. And I just thought that Possessed doesn't tour enough and hasn't done enough over the years, that let's bring them out there, you know, let's get them out there amongst everybody. You know, they're so excited. I called Jeff up and he thought it was a prank call. When I first called him, he's like, I go, it's Chuck Billy, you know. He's like, no, it's not. And I go, why? Chuck's not calling. I go, seriously, it's me, man. You guys, really? So what's up? So I said, you know, we have this tour with KREATOR and we'd like to have you guys as the opening act. He's like, come on, you're pulling a prank on me, right? And I'm like, no, I'm serious. And he was like, I said, after you hang up, call your agent. He knows about it. You'll know it's real. Then call me back. And he did. And he called me back. He's all, dude, sorry about that. I thought it was a joke, but thank you so much for asking us. We're so excited to do it. And now everybody's excited. And we played the Milwaukee Metal Fest with them. They're over in South America doing well. So it's just going to be a great tour. Bring back some old memories with the guys getting out there representing the Bay Area. So yeah, yes, we're looking forward to it.
Totally. And I love that you brought up Milwaukee Metal Fest, because I saw that you said something where you asked the crowd who'd seen us in the late 80s, and you only got a few hands. And I love that. I love that too, because it's like, wow, the newer generations actually are listening to this music and loving it just like I did when I was a teenager.
Yeah, and how lucky are we getting to play 37-year-old song? Well, they're older than that, but that record came out 37 years ago. So for the younger, newer metalheads, there was a lot of young metalheads out there. They're pumped up to hear that old stuff. And it was cool that we're a little better now than we were probably back then. So we performed the songs a little heavier, different. We tuned down, so the songs are a little more aggressive now. So it was fun to see that, and then talking to you new young fans, they're like, I know your history, I've seen the records, but to see it live is totally different than listening to those old records. Yeah, and that was the cool part about it.
Yeah. What else I think is cool nowadays is, okay, back in our day, people our age being at gigs, like doing artists, bands our age, unless they were like a Deep Purple or something like that. I couldn't see us teenagers going to that show. It would be like, all the shows we went to, everybody was basically our age, maybe a couple years older. And then you go to shows now, and it's like you see these young kids so into the, older bands. And I think it's cool. It's pun intended, a testament to the musicianship and the music that you make.
And I give a lot that to the internet and just being more accessible, music in itself, just being more accessible to the masses all over the world.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people just sitting in the room, listening to new bands and then going back and saying, okay, I heard about this thrash metal movement. Where'd Metallica start? And then find out, oh, it's a Bay Area thing. Well, who are these other Bay Area bands? Let's check that out. And it's neat that they get to, learn about the history, but actually to have a band still here kind of doing it and then playing those songs too. It's kind of, wow, okay, I never thought I'd get a chance to see those songs live. I know the records, and wow, what a difference it is hearing them loud now today compared to then.
Oh yeah, 100%. And so on this tour, you're actually I'm in South Florida now. You're making a couple stops in Florida, Orlando and St. Petersburg. So that's cool. That'll be in October around my birthday there. And I love it because not many bands come to Florida anymore because it's a pain to get to Florida and get out of Florida.
Yeah, but we've tried because our agent, there's some years we just like, why aren't we playing Florida? So I've really taught my agent, dude, get us into Florida. You just book it. If a few people shows up or a lot, oh well, we just want to go to Florida.
I love it.
And so we have, and now it's grown again, and now it's kind of a stop that we'll do every time on tour now.
So the interesting thing is back in the 80s, people like us, I don't know about you, but me and my bros would be like, it doesn't matter. The world's going to blow up in 1984 anyway. We never would have conceived of the fact that, you and I be sitting here talking right now. Does it blow your mind that could you even conceive back then? Then does it blow your mind now that you're still playing and still relevant?
Well, I'm very fortunate, and me and Eric talked about this, because our new record we're writing is very aggressive and very current style. And I look at Eric and he goes, dude, did you ever think at 62 you're going to be writing songs like this, right? And singing like that? And I'm like, no, actually, no. And when I was young, starting, my career as a musician, I always had this premonition that I'll be fortunate to make it to 38, which sounded old to me. At 38, man, you better get ready to retire,
right?
And and then I got 38 and I got cancer, so I thought, oh shit, here it comes. My premonition's gonna come to fruition now, and I beat that. But that was like the moment for me, like, okay, this is it. And from that point, beating it on forward, I just look at, I'm very lucky, very fortunate to be doing this and to making music the way we've been making it over the last 20 years. The records have been getting better and better. We're growing with the times and the generations with what's being written out there, bands that are getting the new exposure on, big festivals or radio or internet, So it's great that we're here, but like you said, to still be relevant, that's even a bonus.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because, back then, who would have ever imagined that metal would be as big as it is today? Like I go to festivals where there's 50, 100,000 metalheads there, and like, man, I went to Metallica in LA with 25 people.
Wow.
Like it just isn't even conceivable, that you would we didn't want the masses to know about metal. This was our baby. But I'm so happy that, us gatekeepers didn't succeed with that.
But we still got to spread that word. I wish like the Grammys or these award shows would recognize and understand and not just have the perception because they've never listened to it or experienced it to think, oh, that doesn't deserve the acclaim of like these other artists do. Even their radio bands, and maybe we aren't radio bands, but like you said, there's still the masses selling these big festivals, and there's a lot of young rebellious youths that still, like when we were rebellious. That's what the music we wanted to, support, being different, being something that's against the grain. That was cool, back then. And I don't think it's changed today, but people like the Grammys still won't recognize.
It's weird.
And doesn't give you the attention. They don't even give you the airtime on TV. It's just, you got to read about it, who won and was nominated. So it's still a little sad, and we're still climbing out of the grave, but I think one day it's going to get there. Thank God Metallica, it's only representation pretty much of that old thrash style. There's a lot of great rock metal bands, but not like that thrash style.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, I was just doing an interview recently with an old school musician who basically, he said that bands like you guys, like you and Metallica and stuff, are really what started metal. Even though the thrash metal movement had their influences from like the UK metal invasion, but he saw it as that was really the start of metal, that everything before that was hard rock. And, agree or not agree, it did take it to a whole nother level where you have bands today that maybe wouldn't exist without a band like Testament.
Yeah, and I think it started where, a lot of bands like 80s, 70s, early 80s, bands like us and our style of music could only get signed to independent labels. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot of major labels taking the chance. Bands like Metallica and Anthrax, and then even Slayer, they got that chance. Somebody in the major label seeing something, thought it'd give it a chance. And then, I think once, like for us, we were lucky we got signed with Atlantic. Even though we were still a thrash band, it was this big machine that was trying to get us to like make radio songs and stuff. We're like, we don't know what that is. We don't know how to do that, so let's just keep writing what we do. And here's what we got. Do your best with it. And that opened a lot of doors. And then next thing you know, a lot of these indie labels had great bands. And next thing you know, they have major distribution with major labels. And it's just grown from there,
Yeah, exactly. Well, like you talked about Johnny, and then you got Brian. Like between those two, I mean, what they accomplished. I remember Brian was a store clerk at Oz Records in the Valley. And me and my friends used to go there, and he was brilliant. I told him a few years ago, like it was so brilliant. I don't even think he realized what he was doing. But we would come in there, and he would say, hey, check this album out. You got to listen to this. And, like I remember the first album he showed me was Venom, Welcome to Hell. And I had never heard anything like that before. And I went home and I did the thing where I was like sitting on the balcony with my headphones on, looking at the lyrics, looking at the artwork. And I was kind of tripping out at first because like nothing else was ever like that. But then after a while, like listening to it like 10 times in a row, I'm like, holy shit, I don't even want to go back to that mellower music.
And a lot of it was album covers that grabbed you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Iron Maiden, back as like, before Bruce was in the band, I was a big fan. And then I heard, Bruce first debut on the radio. I'm like, whoa, this is Iron Maiden with a new singer. And I knew Samson before that. So I recognized Bruce. I'm like, whoa, Bruce Dickinson's in Iron Maiden now. Whoa. And that was great. But it was like bands like Exciter. I'd just look at the album cover and go, wow, this is a very cool cover, the knife and the amps and stuff. I'm going to get that record. So a lot of that imagery was really captured a lot of us fans as well that made us interested in that.
Oh, 100%. And even like, for shows, like I went to shows based on the picture I saw in the magazine and like, oh, they look cool. Let's go to that show.
I don't know how many times at my parents' house, we had a bunk bed and We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll vinyl opened up where it had the picture and it was just so heavy. And I was like, wow, this dimmed the lights down. It was so scary and heavy, but cool.
Right? Exactly. 100%. So let's tell everybody how they can connect you on socials, connect on the web, get the remasters, and check out all your tour dates, merch, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you get the albums on Nuclear Blast Records, but you can also go to testamentlegions.com. That'll have all our dates, all the music. We're doing meet and greets on the tour, so if you want to come hang with the band, we got some cool guitars that we're going to be, selling on tour, so fans can come hang out with the band, come backstage, do their thing. Just a lot of cool stuff's going on and going to get started this year. We're pumped up. And we're really looking forward to putting out this next record. Like I said, we have a new drummer, Chris Dovis. He's 25 years old, so he's breathing a lot of new young life into the band, and he's pushing us hard. And so the music's really, really, really up to date. I'll just say that.
I love it. I love it. And one of the things I also love that you guys believe in, and it is to me, just from my memories, the difference between the Bay Area and LA is the number one thing that matters to you guys is the show, not the party. And
yeah, it used to be the party.
Right. Exactly. Like, you know what they said, if you were on the Sunset Strip in the 80s and you remember it, you weren't really there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I love it. So people can't miss your live show because it is massively incredible. And because you're there for the show, and there's nothing like seeing a live Testament show. So everybody, you have to check out the tour dates. Go, even if it's not in your area, take a drive, whatever you got to do, get to the show. Because between you guys and KREATOR and Possessed and Anthrax, wherever it's going to be, I mean, that's like a lineup that is a dream lineup to somebody like me.
Yeah, it's going to be it's like I said, KREATOR's great guy, he's great band. It's going to be an awesome tour. We both are working together to put on a killer show as far as the way it looks production wise. We got some cool stuff going on. It's going to be fun. And I hope to see a lot of, new young metalheads out there to come experience it, because on this next tour for the rest of this year, we're playing the Legacy New Order, a set combined only of those two records. Wow. So it's going to be able to experience that early thrash movement today.
I love it. I love it. That's amazing. And, thanks for all the music you've given us for all these years. And thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Right on. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.